You are excellent communicators, motivators, and promoters. At work, you build morale and company spirit. You value excellence and accomplishment and truly enjoy helping others discover how to shine. Even when you're not coaching others, you often inspire people to become like you in some way. You believe in yourself and invest time and energy in developing your talents. You see life as an opportunity to offer what talents you have to give to the world. You're adaptable and willing to learn another way and to change. You deeply enjoy working with others toward shared goals, and you do not need to outshine them. Others are impressed by your realness and heartfelt sincerity. You model honesty, simplicity, and authenticity, and it inspires people. You don't try to impress others or inflate your importance. Rather, you see your limitations and appreciate your talents without taking yourself too seriously. You're touchingly genuine and affectionate. You're a hero and a role model who inspires others by your outstanding achievements, humility, and warmth. Who else could I be describing but the Enneagram 3, the achiever? Welcome to The Behaviorist with Work Wisdom, where we help you adopt high-performing mindsets, behaviors, communication, and culture. We're your hosts,
Randy Barrage
and Sarah Colantonio. Our intention for the Behaviorist podcast is to share accessible, concrete practices you can weave into your whole life to begin a shift towards joy and meaningful achievement. We're so grateful to have our exceptional friends and Enneagram 3s, Jennifer Powell, Director of Development at Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, Sarah Payne, Impact Consulting Manager at Assets, and Will Kiefer, Founder and Director of Benchmark Program. And Randy, our Vice President at Work Wisdom. I know you're co-hosting, but you're an Enneagram Type 3 too, aren't you?
I am, for better or for worse.
All right, I love it. So let's get into it.
Great. So we're going to do a quick defining of the Enneagram for those new to it and the Type 3, the achiever. And then we're going to move into some interview and talk with our guests that are joining us today. So the Enneagram is an ancient system that offers insights into the 9 different ways in which people feel, think, and behave. These 9 types are defined by a particular core belief about how the world works. This core belief drives a person's deepest motivations and fears, shaping their perspective and worldview. The Enneagram can help us not only understand ourselves better, but those around us. Enneagram Type 3s, the success-oriented, pragmatic type. They are adaptable, excelling, driven, and image-conscious. They are named the achiever because they are on a perpetual journey to achieve success in their environment. They long to be celebrated for their successes, and those successes are defined by their social spheres they live and work within. 3s are very relational, yet repress emotions in order to preserve an image of strength and success. They are also labeled as chameleons, as they are naturally gifted at adjusting or morphing themselves into whatever atmosphere they find themselves in. 3s are known to struggle with workaholism and competitiveness. Type 3s have a basic fear of being worthless or a failure. To counteract this, they look for ways to win in life, reassuring themselves they are valuable. Their key motivations are to be affirmed, to distinguish themselves from others, to have attention, and to be admired. Unhealthy 3s seek approval and reassurance from others to fulfill their fear of being worthless. They struggle with vanity and maintaining their image to those around them, losing themselves in the process. When healthy, 3s can and do achieve great things. They tend to be confident, energetic, and humble role models who can inspire others. Of all types, they most believe in themselves, inspiring those around them.
All right, thank you, Randy. So I want to start with a question for all of you. How did you come to learn your type? And what was the thing that made it hit so close to home? Jennifer, what about you? Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So I first learned about the Enneagram and my type as I was involved with executive coaching with Work Wisdom. So as part of my plan, we did the Enneagram test, and that's when I found out that I was a 3. And it really was, it made a lot of sense to me because when I read about it, that truly was the type of person that I was. I've always been fascinated with like, you know, Myers-Briggs and the DISC assessment. This really was something that I appreciated even more because of the motivation behind it. And it wasn't just like, you know, this is the type extrovert, introvert, but just the motivation behind why I was a 3. So I really appreciate knowing it. And it's fascinating.
It is so fascinating. Yeah. Will, what about you?
Sure. Well, Randy, in the introduction, you said chameleon, and my Enneagram test results came back 3, 2, and 7. And I couldn't figure that out for the longest time. And it was that, like, I've never had a spirit animal. I'm not a big, like, what's your spirit animal kind of guy. When I was told that, like, the chameleon is kind of the animal reference to a 3, it clicked with me. And I haven't always thought that's a good thing, to be able to morph when you're in different contexts in relation to other people. But I think learning about 3 has helped me to celebrate that and question it a little bit less.
That's awesome. I'm sure too, Will, as being kind of the CEO and founder of a company, that like having that ability in some ways can be like such a huge strength for you too.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I know you know this too from the development and fundraising perspective. Being able to shift to kind of meet relational dynamics is an incredible asset. And I think it's worth celebrating as a skill set of 3s.
I agree. Absolutely.
Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, so I learned about the Enneagram. We had one of my coworkers started talking about it one time at lunch, and we were like, what is this thing? And the more she talked about it, the more I was like, I need to know more about this. So took the assessment, and I think similar to Will, I had a variety of numbers at the top and was trying to figure out which one really am I. And so I definitely relate to that, you know, the feeling of being a chameleon, and we change how we present and how we even think of ourselves sometimes, depending on the situation. But the thing that made it hit home for me was I heard that, you know, looking at the negative aspects of type, the one that makes you most cringe and makes you feel so called out is the one that you probably are. So when I was reading, you know, the downsides or the red flags of a 3, as, you know, you start caring too much about status, you start driving yourself to, you know, meet others' expectations. I was like, ooh, ouch, that's me. So I think I identified with that first, but then learning about the rest of the attributes of the 3, I think it made total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say to Sarah, like, I identify a lot with that because I always joke of like my story of finding the Enneagram was I had to take it for work as well with Sarah. And I was on an airplane when I was reading my assessment. And I remember getting to the unhealthy and negative aspects. Like I wanted to jump off the airplane. I was like, it was just too much to process at the time. But it was also great. I think one of the things that I identified with originally too was the feeling of like the motivating drive for a 3 being shame. And I feel like that's something I feel a lot with what drives like what I do. Like, you know, I want to show up at work well, so I don't feel shame of not seeming like a good employee or not seeming like a good friend. And I think what also helped kind of settle me in on being a 3 was going through that experience with Sarah. And I remember after we both found out and we did our debriefs, we were getting like coffee together. We're like, we need to talk about being a 3. And it was a very 3 meeting where we both showed up with notes and Enneagram books and we're talking through it and just kind of like affirming that like, oh, other people have this worldview and maybe others don't. Really kind of settled me into like, this is kind of, I think, where I am and kind of who I am. And it gave me a much better context for some of those things.
Will, did you have something to add to that?
There was this concept of feelings as for us as 3s that we can navigate them very well, but that we don't experience them to the level that we can receive them from others. That to me was like, it's just always been so confusing. And to read that we're in this feeling center as 3s. So we can take that in, we can give it back out. But like internally, at least for me as a 3, my emotions are just like a black box that I don't really like. It's there. I recognize them, that they're in there, but I don't bother with them. I can handle everyone else's, but mine, I'll just let them be. It's a very 3 thing that resonates.
Okay.
Yeah,
For sure. Like,
absolutely.
we're motivated by feelings, right? And we experience them all the time, but I feel like it doesn't penetrate that deep, right? Like, I remember I had one time where I was doing yoga and the instructor was saying, we carry a lot of emotion in our hips. So when you do this next exercise, like, tap into your emotions. And so I like start doing like, stretch, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? I feel so many things. They're there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
we
totally.
hold them, but we don't always, it's not always front of mind that like we're acting out of our feelings or whatever.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
is that resonating?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was surprised that 3 was the feeling, like in the feeling center, because I've always really tried to be very distant, step back. I don't want to be overly emotional. I don't want to, and so when finding that, it was kind of like, huh. But then thinking about it a little more, I kind of like, Will, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm totally like taking your, but I like put it in a box, and compartmentalize and, just really try to take that away. And I've always felt like that was like a weakness. And again, discovering more about this, it's something that I've tried to be better about, and pull out a little bit more. So that's the other thing that I think is really fascinating about my word for the day, fascinating about the Enneagram, is that you can start thinking about these characteristics, and then trying to move small baby steps, but to kind of move away from some of those stressors or more negative sides of the number. So yeah, definitely resonates.
That's fascinating. I feel like I'm learning so much because I'm an Enneagram 9, and in health, I go to 3. So I feel like I'm very fortunate today to learn all about what you get out of being a 3. It's so exciting. Will, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to resonate like this idea. So in the fitness world, which Benchmark's involved in, Sarah, the whole concept of like your emotions are in this movement as something that I have struggled with always. Like, I just tune that part out when an instructor says to like get in touch with the inner emotions. I'm like, that may be for everyone else in the room, but not
Doesn't apply to me.
Yeah. And Jennifer, I'm sure we all get this, but like when we have like our emotions as we try and figure them out, other people can bring them to us because we can handle other people's emotions. So like we're in this balance of, as leaders, let's help our team out. Let's be the sounding board. If you're having a bad day, bring it to me. And then we're trying to like carefully tease apart our own emotions. It's a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially on, I was describing, I think we all feel detached from our core emotion, which is kind of that heart area, which I think exists in a few of the other numbers in the Enneagram as well. I think it's 3, 6s, and 9s are most detached from their triad in some ways. And it was interesting. I had a meeting with somebody recently, and they were like, I had to process this big decision, and I just had to sit with it in my body. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't know how I could do that and come away with an answer. It was just interesting. And to that end as well, what I always explain is like, I started realizing as I had the language around the Enneagram 3 that I approach almost every kind of opinion or decision or what I'm saying with, I feel ... It's never I think or I know. I'm always saying how are my emotions instinctively dictating this situation. So that's something that I've kind of like picked up on over the past 2 or so years of knowing more about the Enneagram. So the next question that we had for you all was, how has learning about your type changed your perspective of yourself at work or how you interact with others? Sarah, how did this question hit you, or how do you feel about that?
I think it made a lot of sense, being a type 3 and thinking about how I work with others and how I show up at work. I think my boss knew that I was a type 3 before I did, because I was constantly, trying to overperform always. If he asked me to do one thing, I did 10. And so, I think he was keyed into that even before I was. I've always prided myself on working really hard. If I have limitations, I embrace that, but I feel like by working hard, I can overcome it. Right. So I feel like that has been my kind of sense of value at work. for a long time, that like I work harder than anyone, and I think that makes me successful. In terms of how I interact with others, it really helped me to realize that the Enneagram type 3 is in the aggressive stance versus withdrawn or dependent. So, there are times where, maybe I feel like a discussion or decision is moving too slowly, and I'm just inside like boiling, because I'm like, why can't we just figure this out? Like, let's just get an answer and move forward. Like, we just keep like circling back or going down a rabbit trail. And it's like, oh my gosh. So I feel like I definitely relate to that aggressive stance and the forward looking aspect of that, thinking about the future, like drive. And some types are not like that. So, right, we have to have some patience and, let people process in their ways. But yeah, if it was up to me, it would just be like, go, go, go all the time.
Yeah, Sarah, I know exactly what you mean. Did you find prior to the Enneagram that you instinctively thought of yourself as aggressive? Because I feel we've talked about this before, where sometimes in those situations, it feels like my brain is on a runaway train of aggression and feelings and wanting to reach that decision. I don't even like, I know I'm doing it, but I can't necessarily stop myself from doing it. So did you find before the Enneagram, you thought of yourself as an aggressive person?
I didn't. No, I mean, especially when you say an aggressive person, like I feel like I'm pretty easygoing, and like I think that's part of the 3 too, that you try to just blend in with the others, and like you're just one of the group. Like I'm not like the out there pushing aggressive type. But I think when I also thought about like in terms of the world stance and what it means, aggressive means you're responsible for your future. If you want something, it's up to you. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to be given to you by someone else. Like you have to go get the thing. I think that made a lot of sense to me for, being in that aggressive type. So once I learned more about it, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I move aggressively in the world, I suppose. If I want something, I'm going to do it, But yeah, I don't think that was something that occurred to me before taking, the Enneagram. So that's been super helpful in terms of how I show up at work and how I work with others.
That's really interesting. Will, how have you thought about this question?
Well, I think, Sarah, you just enlightened me a little bit in like that aggression, because I don't feel like an aggressive 3 either. In fact, I kind of tend towards the 9, where I'm mediating and trying to see all sides. But the aggression part is 100% just pushing. So the Enneagram gave me, first of all, like awareness of the other types, because my team, we have I'm really lucky to have a team that's all different, represents all different numbers on the Enneagram. So understanding that language, but it was awareness for me first and foremost, as I try and figure out like how to be a more sophisticated 3, just awareness that like my work and I are so closely tied together that we're like one thing. Like people think about me and they think of benchmark program, they think of benchmark program and they think of me. So that's work for me to pull those apart. And without understanding my type, I don't think I would have recognized, as silly as it sounds, I don't think I would have recognized the level to which I'm tied to my work, and how that might be something to work on. So I'm thankful for that awareness.
That's great. And that is a very common pitfall of the 3s, is really identifying themselves as the work they do, which can, when we go through the intro and read the great things, 3s can and do achieve great things. And a lot of that comes from that drive and some of those tendencies to really fully throw themselves at whatever they're interested in. But understanding and having that awareness of when you may be going too far, or when you need to separate it out and realize, there's more to your personhood outside of, what you're doing, for work or your job or your company, which is a common challenge for 3s. Jennifer, how have you thought about this?
So, I have always been like bossy pants, super competitive, again, so some of these total classic 3 things. I mean, like to the death, I want to win at Monopoly, whatever board game, Scrabble, really bad. Like I have messed up relationships over a card game, like really bad. So, learning more about this, and definitely I've always thought of myself as aggressive. So that wasn't surprising to me. I more or less thought of it in like assertive, like I'm going in out there and I'm getting it, not in a negative sense. Yeah, I have always been that way. So this has helped me to kind of, really take a step back and say, chill, Jennifer, chill down. It's not the end of the world if you lose this card game. It's not the end of the world if you are not getting, the Scrabble triple word or whatever. And as far as at work, I just want to shine. I want to get the pat on the head, the attaboy. I want to be at the front of the picture. I want to, do all of that. And so I work really hard so it's not that I just want to move right there to the front. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to do everything that needs to happen at the sort of fault of my own self. So I am working way too long or taking on way too many responsibilities and not doing anything well. So again, just really having this awareness of, close your mouth when there's another project coming up, even though you know how to do it and you'll do it the right way and everything will be good, to just close my mouth and let it flow. Again, it's like, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to be, looked at as like a bad person because you didn't add this on. So, I just really appreciated the awareness of this. And I want to mention, Will said something about, that identification with your work. I had a really difficult time. I left a job that I was with for 12 years, and it was a bit of a not so great exit. And afterwards, I was literally incapacitated. I didn't know who I was. I was the executive. That's who I was. That was my entire life, everything. And that period of mourning and grief, because it was just really a really challenging time. And so as I've moved on in other positions, I've really been very conscious of that, because that was devastating. It was devastating. Who am I? What do I do? Where do I go? This is all I've known, because I was I so represented myself with that job. And so again, this awareness and being more conscious of things can really help in the long run to not kind of fall into some of these really stressed situations that I've been in the past. So yeah, thank you.
Randy, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel it really highlighted for the first time, or put into words maybe, the positives and negatives that I may bring to a workplace, which I don't know if I deeply understood those things prior. I think inherently, which you all can probably relate to, I knew I was a hard worker. I knew I was driven. I knew I was ambitious, but contextualizing how that could be channeled into a positive example for others around me, I don't think I really understood that. And I don't think I was aware of some of those things that I had the ability to do that. However, on the negative ends, there was also a lot of really enlightening things. I think a lot of times I do feel wrapped up in my own head of, productivity and my work and what I'm doing, that I don't realize sometimes the draining effect that can have on those I do work with, where if I'm sending, emails at, 9 at night, or sending things on weekends, that can inherently stress out the people I'm working with and make them feel like they need to be doing those things, when that's not my intention, or I wasn't even aware that was having that effect, or that my mood or my demeanor in a meeting, that aggressiveness that Sarah was talking about, like, I don't realize the effect that can have on those other than the meeting, where people will come up and they'll be like, "Oh, are you okay? Like, what happened there?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I was just like, I wanted to get a decision made. I wanted to get this done. I was moving it forward. Nothing's wrong." So I think understanding the effect that I can have on those around me, for better or worse, has been really kind of something new to me that I've enjoyed learning through the Enneagram.
That brings us to our next question. I love this question because it's, what do you love the most about being a 3? Will, what about you? What do you love the most about being a 3?
It seems so, in studying this, it kind of fits in what's the dominant culture here in the States, is this, like, we are achievers, we work hard and we get results. And like, to the extreme of that culture, we don't sleep that much, Randy, we're sending emails late at night, like send them late at night, send them early in the morning, let people know you are going to outwork them. So that feels good. I recognize that that's not healthy, but I have to admit, it does feel good to just like be in line with what feels like kind of the American culture. And there's a lot of work to be done in that, but we talked about pats on the back and how powerful they are for threes. It feels like a cultural pat on the back.
Sure.
So I do enjoy that, for better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. It is. I've read that the US it's an Enneagram 3 at its core, really going for it. Yeah, that's interesting. Jennifer, what about you? What do you absolutely love about being a 3?
I think what I love the most about being a 3 is just, I really I want to help. I want to help her. I do have a 2 wing. So but just take the skills that I have and contribute that to the good of the world, And so I'm in nonprofit. I want to, take all of this energy and all of the motivation and the I'm rightness. No, learn, I can teach you, but it's all from a pure place of wanting to share my skills and my love or whatever with others. So I'm probably not articulating it very, very well, but that is just something that has resonated. And I've always been that way. I've always been that type of person. And so I think that's what drew me to my career. But yeah, I really like that part about the 3.
So good. Sarah.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said, Jennifer. I love the fact that for the 3, as you said, Sarah, in the intro, with we see life as an opportunity to offer our talents to the world to make it better. And I love that that's our MO. That's freaking awesome, So, and we try to make ourselves better so that we can make the world better, right? And I think the other thing that I like, and is a challenge sometimes, on the flip side of it, is having those really high standards, right? For ourselves, but also for those around us and for the world, right? We are not content for things to just be okay or it's fine. No, it can be better. I can be better. We can be better. The world can be better. And so I love having that drive, right? Again, there's a shadow side to some of this stuff, but we're focusing on what we love. So yeah, I'll leave it at that as what I love about being a 3.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. Randy, what do you love?
Yeah, I was going to agree with everything that everyone has said thus far. I really do enjoy, and anyone would like to hear that they're a success-oriented person and that they're, achieving things and having accomplishments, and I love that. But I do, like Sarah was just mentioning, I love that I care about my work and my job, and that can be a pitfall for me at points. But I couldn't even fathom being a person who wasn't fully invested in what I was doing and wanting to see that be better. It's not conceivable to my brain to have that mindset, to be a clock in, clock out type of person. It's just not me, and it will never be me. And I do really like that. And one of the other things that I've really enjoyed is I do find that because of that care and that passion, that when times are tough or when there's a crisis, that I'm a person who naturally will kind of rise to the occasion. And I really love that about myself, that I know I'll kind of show up when someone really needs to show up. And it may be as a reluctant leader occasionally, but I find I will kind of always take that mantle when I feel it really needs to be taken. And I do really like that about myself.
100%. That's so well said. And I think it's that, even again, not to come off as super vain, but I think it's a safe place here with 3s. We know we can do it, right? When things get tough, we are going to be the ones to do well, and we can lead in those tough situations. And I'm saying that with a healthy dose of humility, hopefully.
Yeah, Sarah, that's funny, reflecting on what I had said in the intro of, 3s are of all types the most self-assured, and it's not always something we want to admit and say these things out loud, like what you just said, but we do really believe in ourselves. And it is nice to have that confidence. Not that we don't doubt ourselves, which we all do at very deep levels occasionally, but we do, at the end of the day, really believe in ourselves and the work we do. how would you kind of provide advice, or what do you want others to know about threes, given some of that? Will, what do you think about that? What advice would you give to others?
Yes. So I love this. I love this articulation of like when things get tough, like we're there. But for me, the advice that I wish I'd heard earlier on was that like achievement isn't just like a singular thing. I personally, as a three, get in this mindset like all achievement has to route back to me. Somehow there has to be a tie-in at everything at my organization has to tie back to me. And that's just not true. And that's something that I've built up over growing up as a three. Just like if you want achievement, you've got to go out and get it. You get it on your own. But in the real world, to be big time successful, achievement has to be more than just you. It can be delegation. Like achieving something through delegating can be just as valuable as you doing it on your own. And that's some advice that I needed a long time ago.
Really great. Jennifer, what would you say? What advice would you have for other threes?
Rest. I'm serious. We're so driven that, we do not take time, it's just like, let's go. So rest would be one, but also, that it's okay that if you're not number one or you're not, I would internalize losing as like, I am the worst being on this planet. Again, because I lost a Scrabble game, but, so not to internalize that, but, so I think it would be, rest and be with yourself, and you don't have to achieve anything. You don't have to win anything. So I think that would be it. And that also that it's not the end of the world if you're not number one or you're not the best or the brightest. It's okay. It really is okay.
That's great. Sarah, has any of that resonated with you, or how do you feel about kind of what advice you would give to others?
Yeah, 100%. What you both just said. I think for me, the affirmation that I would give to others is your value isn't what you can do and what you can produce. Your value is who you are, even in a work setting, right? Like I recently had a colleague, tell me, you weren't hired just to do things. You were hired to like bring you as your whole person. And I was like, what? No, like I'm only here to do things. And if I'm not doing the things really well, like what am I doing? So just that encouragement to find value in who you are, not just what you do. And I think a very kind of practical application of that in terms of advice that I got was to do one of your hobbies and do it in a way that no one's going to see the result, right? Like where you're not judging the results. So I like to sketch sometimes, but every time it's like, if it's bad, it's like, oh, like I can't do anything right. Like throw away the sketchbook, like never pick it up again. You know what I mean? Or, if I'm out for a run, it's like, oh, well, I didn't hit like my pace that I wanted. And I have to literally tell myself sometimes, like, it is okay to go slow. Just like be out here, like enjoying the world when I'm on a run. Like the sun is shining. It's all good. You don't have to kill yourself on this run. So I think that's a continual challenge for me, but that advice to do something and nobody is watching, and even you don't have to put like a standard to it. Super challenging.
Yeah, 100%. I feel a lot of what I would relate to other threes, and by other threes, I also mean myself a lot of times, is that not every day is the Super Bowl, and it's okay if it's the preseason or the Pro Bowl game where nobody cares and they're sitting in Hawaii drinking margaritas and not really caring about the game. That not every day, I need to show up like it's the end all be all to who I am as a person, which I can feel that way a lot of times. And it's tough to get out of the cycle of waking up on Saturday morning and instantly your brain is going, well, if I have my coffee by 7:30, I can get to the gym by 8 o'clock. And then if I'm back from the gym, I can get into a little bit of work and then I can get to the grocery. I'm like, wait, it's my Saturday. I can take a step back, and it's okay to invest in things and my time in restful ways and leisure activities.
How do you do that though?
Yeah, that's what I'm unsure of. It sounds great as I'm saying it.
Already in my head, and I'm like, how do there's this thing called the no expectations day, right? That I heard about on some other podcast. They're like, yeah, like once every few months, just take a day where there's no expectations, do whatever you want. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever had a day like that in my life, and how would that even work?
Yeah, and how could you be how could I as a 3 be okay with not doing anything for a day?
Oh, so I've been trying to do that, and then I feel guilt.
Yes.
Gosh, so I'm like, I've really got to lean into this rest and this no expectation, and I'm just going to chill. And then like at the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel this guilt. And that's part of the growth though, is to accept that feeling and, try to sit with it as much as I don't want to, but yeah, it's hard because you feel guilt. You feel like, wow, I didn't do anything. Nothing got accomplished. What am I? Wow. Yeah.
And then it's like perversely like, well, I have to be the best at resting. I'm going to be the best rester ever. I'm going to relax so good today. I'm going to crush it. It's just like so antithetical to what the purpose even is.
Yeah. I didn't even realize I did that, Sarah, until you just said it, where like I'm like my steps on my Apple or my iPhone are going to be under 500. I'm going to eat 2 pizzas and I'm going to rest so hard. And I think about that with like things I see by like The Rock on his cheat days, where he's a 3 and he's like, let me eat this entire plate of cookies just to show the world that I can do this. And yeah, it is so true, Sarah.
I think 3s it's like there's nothing in moderation. There's no, and I understand that is a healthy thing. My mom told me that all my life, like just go why can't you do moderation? It's like, if I'm going to eat salad, I'm going to eat a lampshade full of salad as much as
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I literally, when I was in school, and I remember especially in high school, my mom would have to tell me at night when I was staying up late studying, working on projects, or on weekends, be like, don't work so hard. Like, it's okay. Go to bed. Like, hang out with your friends. Like, you don't need, like, why are you working this hard? Which, like, most kids don't need that from their parents. At that age, it's like, do your homework, like, study. And I had to be told to chill out by my parents, because it was like, yeah, nothing in moderation. If I have to do the thing, it's going to be done 110%. Nothing else is an option.
I love it. It's so insightful to hear this. I have a big question as not a 3, as an outsider here. What is it that you want others to know about 3s? If there's one thing that you wanted others to know about 3s, what would it be? Jennifer, you got something?
I don't know. Let me think. What would I want someone to know about the 3s? That I think that, we are real assets to, you can depend on us. We're going to get it done. We're going to do the best. And it is an asset to any environment, whether it's the work environment, whether it's the home environment. We're going to get the house clean. We're going to, whatever it is, that you can depend on us. And we are very, very trustworthy and dependable, because we're going to get it done and we're going to do it well.
Love it. Sarah.
Such a good question. I think for me, where my mind goes to answering this question is wanting people to know that even when it seems like we have it all together, there's still some vulnerability and pain underneath that. Yeah, and I don't know what I would necessarily want people to do with that, but I think just understanding, sometimes we like to even think of ourselves as, robots or just productivity machines, and we're not, we're human. As much as sometimes that feels icky, even to me. But yeah, I would answer it that way, I think.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why this is such a tough question is, like, as a 3, we're not thinking about what you're thinking. I mean, we're thinking about perception, but like, you're doing your job and I'm doing my job. So I don't want, like, just do your job and I'll get, like, and the thing is, I do want feedback. I want to know your perspective, because I think that's valuable, but I'm unlikely to solicit it from you. You have to bring that to me, because you got to understand, I'm in my lane over here doing what I think I've got to get done. So I know I need some perspective, but I'm probably not going to go out and get it. And that's a challenge.
Randy, what about you?
Yeah, my answer is pretty simple, I think, and it's almost potentially, it feels too cheesy for a 3 to say that, it's almost a bit vomit-inducing for me. That I feel all of us, we're consistently praised for our our drive, our work ethics, and I know that about myself. And it's nice to hear those things. It fills up my ego tank a little bit as a 3 to get those every now and then. But really, I think also 3s want to be appreciated for who they are as whole human beings, and to have that kind of recognition that, like, just as a person, you enjoy my company and you enjoy having me on your team or at work with you, not because of all the productive things I'm going to do for you, but because you enjoy who I am. So that's a big one that I would recognize, that we don't always want feedback on our productivity, because let's be real, we know that's there. We want it for who we are as a person.
For sure.
So good. That's so good. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I guess our next question is, we wanted to read off a few famous 3s and a few fictional 3s. And I'll be asking a follow-up question to that. So these are some, if they're a actual person, they've taken the Enneagram, they've identified themselves, or if they're a fiction, they've been assumed to be that type. So a few famous and fictional 3s are Oprah, Tiger Woods, Lady Gaga, Tony Robbins, Don Draper from Mad Men, Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter, Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, and Odysseus from the Odyssey. So other 3s, my fellow 3s, when you hear those, what are the qualities within them that you most relate to? What about them makes you cringe a bit slightly? I'm going to go with Sarah on this one first.
Yeah, all of these people, I mean, they're like magnanimous, like, them, right? They're leaders. So I think, that's the positive side of it. I mean, the other, as you went down the list and we start thinking about, some of these people that are like obsessed with their own vanity, like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, to the point where like it's really comical. He sings songs about how much he loves himself, but it's like, maybe I sing songs in my head sometimes about how great I am. Or Draco Malfoy, where it's like he's always like conniving. There's a plan, like he's gonna. But I'm like, I don't know. I kind of do that sometimes. Like I can be a little bit like sneaky. I put on the happy face, right? Like about I'm not plotting, but I can be sometimes. So yeah, I identify with a few of those.
That's great. What about you, Jennifer?
So I thought this was absolutely fascinating. Again, my word for the day, when I did the Enneagram and started sort of like researching who else was a 3. And when I was a kid, I said I was going to grow up to be the next Oprah Winfrey. Like that was my goal. Like I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be the next Oprah Winfrey. So when I read that she was a 3, I was like, oh my gosh, that's why even as a 15-year-old or 13-year-old kid, I identified with just her strength. And, Sarah said it, badassness, like, yeah, I can do this. I'm smart. I can come into any room. I can command that room. I can get in front of, 1,000 people and speak so eloquently and charm and everything, and so I just related so much to Oprah. As far as like the sort of negative side, I guess, or, places where that is something that I've really struggled to try not to fall in, is that external validation, and just, always wanting to present in such a way that I was perfect, I was smart, I was all of those things. And I felt like Oprah, even, again, I'm going, she lost all that weight, and I've had a weight problem. And, so it's just like, just everything around with her, I've really been able to relate to a lot of the unfortunate stressor side I've experienced as being a 9. I've had anxiety attacks on camera when I was interviewed because I messed up, and I was just so devastated with myself that all of a sudden I couldn't breathe, and I'm on camera. So it made it even worse because I messed up the word, and then I looked crazy because I just was stymied. So yeah, I think for me, when I read down that list, I definitely identify with all of them. Muhammad Ali is also a 3, Bill Clinton, so it's just like people like all through my life that I've really been able to relate and resonate.
Super interesting. And yeah, thank you for sharing that and how you relate to them. It's really insightful. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. Will, how do you feel when you kind of hear that list?
Well, Jennifer said something that's spot on, like being able to enter a room and command that room or just have presence. Like that's Oprah, that's Tony Robbins. I guess it's also Voldemort or Draco, at the negative. But I've never been to Tony Robbins seminar, but I've seen clips of it. And like, there's no moderation there. That's like, this is all, I'm giving you all of my stuff and you need to use it because this is the way to do it. And that seems very threeness. Like that seems very three to me. I think I see here displayed some of the negative way that could go. But I'm honing in on that like presence created by some of these threes, like national, international presence. And that feels similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, as I kind of hear those as well on the positive end, a lot of what you've all said of there's something I've always loved the idea of those who are willing to put in the work and go that extra mile. And when I see some of those people on the list, or I think of, I know Sarah Payne will enjoy this one, but Tom Brady, and hearing the stories of he has a golf tournament and he's still running, laps and doing workouts and stretches in the parking lot. And people are like, why are you doing this? And he's like, because I'm going to win the Super Bowl next year. Or, Kobe Bryant. And when you hear the work ethic he had, and there's something that I really, really feel and value with those type of people who are willing to put in that time. So it makes me really proud to be even tangentially related to them through the Enneagram. And on the negative side, I think in fiction, it's really hard for me sometimes, or even with these real people, when you see their flaws and see their pitfalls or what an unhealthy area can look like, because I do in some way see that within myself or know I can go that direction. And it's really hard to come to terms with that. And see that is a potential if I'm not careful and if I don't monitor some of these things or understand what it looks like to be more in touch with, my tendencies. So I found that really interesting. So we are going to move into our wrap-up question for our guests, and that is, moving forward, what do you hope further understanding of the Enneagram can do to improve the work you do? I'm going to kick this one off with Will.
I think in brief, it's the language. Like this is a language that we could be speaking to each other, to our teams, to our families. And if we don't even recognize that this is another language, it only hurts us. So further study of like our own threeness and others, it's like a whole new level of communication that we have. And I think that improves all areas of our lives.
Thanks so much. Sarah?
Yeah, for me, I think further understanding of the Enneagram, I would hope that it helps me to understand people better. Again, just finding that empathy and also the value and the strengths that other types bring that maybe I wouldn't see traditionally as a strength like in myself, right? But, the equanimity of a 9, like I love that, like in an organization, so just learning more and seeing all the value that, these different types can bring to a group, whether that's at work or just in life. So yeah, I think just further understanding of the Enneagram to, help make us more well-rounded people, right? And that it's okay to tap into these other numbers. And, like I said, that they all have these great values. And personally trying to be more 9-like sometimes, because I can be a little intense and I'm just like, something about 9s, they're just so chill. Like I want to be like that. So I don't know, but hopefully learning more about, again, just how to be well-rounded.
That's great. And Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, I want to speak more selfishly about this. I really want to, continue on this journey of discovery of who I am. I mentioned about that affiliation with work and that when I went through the Work Wisdom Academy, plug for Work Wisdom Academy, but we had a session that was talking about purpose, and I got very emotional because I thought, what is Jennifer Powell's purpose? Not as a mother, not as a worker, not as whatever, not as someone who's attractive or charming or, everything on this outside, but what is my true core value and belief and purpose in this world. And so, I really want to continue to learn and go deeper, because the Enneagram is so complicated, actually, when you start going, down into some of these other layers. So there's so much more to learn. And the wings that I have, I mentioned that I have a really strong 2 wing, but I have been leaning into like the 4 a little bit, trying to pull pieces. So it's just really, it's really been life-changing for me in some ways, because it's really helped me to not beat myself up so much, because I'm not trying to, achieve, or I don't achieve, or I sit back and say, okay, I'm not going to take that extra assignment. But it's also been so beneficial for me to kind of make these changes and know, and like Will said, we have this language now, and we can communicate externally, but we can also communicate with ourselves. So
that's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And for me, I feel moving forward, I don't necessarily know if I believe in balance, but as a 3, I want to understand how I can continue to always tap into the drive I have and help propel myself and those around me in great ways, but also how do I integrate rest into that to make sure that's sustainable over the long term. So I think that's the further understanding I'm hoping to have through all of this as a 3 moving forward.
Well, I have really enjoyed hearing all of your wisdom and input. I want to thank our guests, Sarah, Jennifer, Will, for joining us today. Thank you, listeners, for downloading The Behaviorist. We hope you'll subscribe.
If interested in learning more about the Enneagram or the other awesome things Work Wisdom does, please reach out to us through our website, workwisdomllc.com, where you can enjoy Work Wisdom press and productions, ask questions, listen to our past episodes, and make suggestions on any topics you'd like to hear in future episodes. We're going to end this morning with a quote from our fellow 3, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which is, "What are the keys to success? The key is there is no key. Be humble, hungry, and the hardest worker in any room." Thanks so much.